Imagine, like, hosting a summer barbecue.
Oh, right. The perfect summer day.
Yeah, exactly. The grill is going, the weather is perfect, your friends are laughing, and then suddenly the ground right beneath your pristine lawn turns into this soggy, just profoundly foul-smelling swamp.
Oh, no. That is a nightmare.
It really is. And a moment later, someone runs out of the house to tell you the guest bathroom toilets are actively bubbling over.
Yeah, that's the moment panic sets in.
Right. So today we are talking about a $20,000 time bomb buried right in your front yard.
A time bomb most people don't even think about.
Exactly. It's this highly critical piece of home infrastructure that, I mean, most people completely misunderstand, usually right up until the exact moment it ruins their summer.
Right.
I'm talking, of course, about your septic system.
It really is the ultimate invisible infrastructure, isn't it?
It totally is.
I mean, we structure our entire modern lives around the convenience of indoor plumbing. Yet the moment that waste vanishes down the drain, we just completely divorce ourselves from the reality of where it actually goes.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. And honestly, whether you are a brand new homeowner, terrified of breaking your house, or maybe you've lived on a septic system for 30 years.
Or even if you just like knowing how things work.
Right, exactly. If you are just one of those ever-curious learners who loves understanding the hidden mechanics of the world around you, this deep dive is definitely for you.
Because the old rules are just fundamentally broken.
They really are. The old rules of how we handle our home's waste simply do not work anymore. Today, we are working with an excerpt from a really eye-opening piece of source material titled Modern Septic Care, Evolving Beyond Traditional Maintenance Strategies.
And that source outlines a massive necessary shift in how we approach household waste management.
Yeah, it's a huge pivot.
It is. We are moving away from brute force mechanics and stepping into, well, biological stewardship.
Biological stewardship, I like that. The mission of this deep dive is to unpack exactly why the old school rules of septic maintenance, the ones maybe your parents or your neighbors taught you, are actually actively destroying systems today.
Destructive is the right word for it.
We will look at how modern biology is completely rewriting the way we maintain these essential utilities. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to truly understand the new modern approach, we really have to look at the dark ages of septic care.
Oh, the dark ages.
Yeah, we have to understand the sheer amount of damage caused by that historical out-of-sight, out-of-mind philosophy.
Historically, the entire philosophy of septic care could basically be boiled down to one highly destructive sentence.
Which is?
If the toilet flushes, everything is fine.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Right. The source highlights that ignore it unless something backs up was literally the default maintenance strategy for millions of households.
Which, I mean, is an insane way to treat a vital piece of engineering.
Completely insane.
To understand why that is so dangerous, we actually need to pause and look at what a septic system fundamentally is. I think a lot of people picture just like a giant underground trash can that holds dirty water.
Right, just a big concrete box.
Yeah. But it is infinitely more complex than that. When you flush a toilet or drain a bathtub, all of that liquid and solid waste travels down a single main pipe into the septic tank.
And once it enters that tank, basic physics takes over.
Right.
A healthy septic tank naturally separates the incoming waste into 3 distinct layers. The heavy, solid material sinks to the very bottom. That becomes the sludge layer.
Okay, sludge at the bottom.
Exactly. And the lighter materials, particularly fats, oils, and greases from your kitchen, well, they float to the absolute top. That forms the scum layer.
Scum layer at the top. Got it. And trapped in the middle of that scum sandwich is the liquid, which is called the effluent.
The effluent, yes.
Now, here's the part that I think most people totally miss. That liquid doesn't just stay in the tank forever.
No, it can't.
Right. As new water enters the tank from the house, it displaces the liquid in the middle layer. It pushes that effluent out of the tank and into what is called the drain field.
And the drain field is arguably the most critical and fragile component of the entire operation.
It's the part that actually fails, right?
Exactly. It is a network of perforated pipes buried in shallow trenches filled with gravel. The liquid effluent seeps out of those pipes, filters through the gravel, and is naturally purified by the microbes in the soil before it eventually returns to the groundwater.
So if the system relies on this super delicate balance of liquids flowing out and solids staying behind, the old strategy of just ignoring the tank is a literal recipe for disaster.
A very expensive disaster.
Yeah. The source text points out that historically, the only maintenance people ever performed was calling a pump truck every 3 to 5 years to just suck out the sludge.
Right, just mechanical removal.
They treated occasional pumping as the finish line for home maintenance, which, I mean, is like doing absolutely zero maintenance on your car and just assuming it's fine because the engine turns on.
That's a great comparison.
And then being completely shocked when the engine block completely seizes up on the highway.
What's fascinating here is the core disconnect. Mechanical clearing is a necessary baseline, sure, but treating it as the only required maintenance completely ignores the daily stress we put on these systems.
We put a lot of stress on them.
We do.
Yeah.
Modern households are essentially running an obstacle course for their plumbing. Think about the daily habits that have become just, normalized. We pour hot bacon grease down the kitchen sink, assuming it's liquid, so it's fine.
Oh, man. But the moment that hot grease hits the cold underground tank, it solidifies.
Exactly.
It turns into a hard, impenetrable block of fat right in that top scum layer.
Precisely. And then consider the bathroom. We flush so-called flushable wipes.
Oh, I hate those things.
They are the worst. They are woven with synthetic fibers that absolutely do not break down in water like regular toilet paper does.
They just sit there.
Right. They sit in the sludge layer, just taking up physical space. Plus, we use heavily concentrated antibacterial soaps in every single shower. Antibacterial dishwashing detergents, harsh chemical cleaning sprays.
So if the tank is filling up with undegradable synthetic wipes, solidified cooking grease, and a daily cocktail of antibacterial chemicals, what happens to all that waste?
Well, it certainly doesn't just magically disappear.
Right. It accumulates far faster than the system was designed to handle.
The sludge layer at the bottom rises, the scum layer at the top gets thicker, and that middle layer of liquid gets squeezed.
The effluent layer.
Yes. Eventually, the solid waste starts getting pushed out of the tank entirely. It flows directly into those perforated pipes in the drain field.
And that is the $20,000 nightmare the source text warns about.
The point of no return.
Yeah. Once the raw, solid sludge gets into the drain field, it coats the gravel and clogs the pores of the soil. The liquid can no longer filter into the ground. It literally has nowhere to go but up.
And that is when you get the foul-smelling swamp in your yard.
The gurgling pipes, the sewage backing up into your bathtub, and you can't just pump the tank to fix that, can you?
No, absolutely not. Once the drain field is ruined, you have to bring in an excavator. You dig up your entire yard, remove the contaminated soil, and build a brand new drain field.
Which costs tens of thousands of dollars.
It is financially devastating. But when homeowners notice the early warning signs, maybe a slow drain or a faint sewage odor in the yard, their instinct is usually to rely on brute force.
Oh, for sure.
They reach under the sink for industrial-strength drain chemicals, or they pour straight bleach down the toilet, thinking they are clearing a clog.
But pouring bleach down a drain to fix a struggling septic system is it's like drinking rubbing alcohol to cure a stomachache.
That is exactly what it's like.
You are just nuking the flora that is actively trying to digest your food. The text emphasizes this biological epiphany that is finally hitting the mainstream. A septic tank is not a sterile concrete storage box.
No, it's not.
It is an active, living stomach.
That is the perfect analogy. The tank is a biological environment. Its entire function relies on living bacteria naturally consuming and breaking down the organic, solid waste.
Right. By pouring harsh, caustic chemicals into the system to stop a smell, you are essentially waging biological warfare on your own plumbing.
Biological warfare. Wow.
You are wiping out the microbial workforce that is trying to keep the solids from reaching your drain field.
And that biological workforce is incredibly specific, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, to really understand why the old methods fail, we have to look at the science of the bacteria itself.
We do.
A traditional septic tank is a sealed environment buried underground. There is literally no oxygen down there.
That lack of oxygen dictates everything. Because the tank is sealed, the naturally occurring bacteria inside it are anaerobic, meaning they survive without oxygen.
Okay, anaerobic.
Anaerobic bacteria do eventually break down waste, but they are incredibly slow, highly inefficient, and very fragile.
The source mentioned that they also produce a nasty byproduct, right?
Yes, they do.
When these anaerobic bacteria slowly digest the waste, they release hydrogen sulfide gas. That is the source of that classic rotten egg sewage smell that drifts over the yard when the system is struggling. Exactly. The underlying problem is that we are asking these slow, inefficient, fragile anaerobic bacteria to process the massive load of a modern household.
Which they can't do.
And on top of that, we're actively poisoning them with antibacterial soaps and bleach. The system cannot keep up. The waste accumulates, the odors worsen, and the drain field gets destroyed.
The financial pain of a $20,000 excavation bill has really forced a massive cultural shift here. Homeowners are actively rejecting aggressive, bleach-heavy chemicals because they realize the math just doesn't work.
Prevention is so much cheaper than reaction.
Always. The source material outlines this transition away from reactive emergency chemical warfare toward a strategy of ongoing natural biological support.
The modern approach centers on cultivating the microbiome of the tank,
Hmm.
much like you would cultivate the soil in a garden.
I love that concept, cultivating your clumbing.
If the bacterial balance is healthy and thriving, the waste breaks down efficiently. The natural decomposition accelerates, sludge accumulation slows dramatically, and the effluent flowing into the drain field remains clean and clear.
Ensuring the soil never clogs. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because once you accept that the tank is a living stomach that requires a specific microbiome to function, the challenge becomes how to actually cultivate it.
Right, how do you feed it?
Exactly. The source text introduces this major transition toward treatment-based care, specifically highlighting a product called SEPTIFIX. It is described as a modern, flushable monthly tablet designed as a preventative treatment.
We are seeing a complete pivot from panic-induced chemical fixes to a strategy of steady, monthly biological reinforcement.
Wait, I have to push back here for a second.
Sure.
We just spent a significant amount of time discussing how flushing things down the toilet like synthetic wipes and chemicals is exactly what destroys a septic system.
We did.
Now, the modern, scientifically backed solution is to flush a tablet. How is this not just another infomercial gimmick that is going to sit at the bottom of the tank and take up space?
The skepticism is completely valid, given the history of terrible plumbing products out there.
There are so many bad ones.
So many. But the distinction lies in the mechanics of what the tablet actually does once it is submerged in the tank.
Yeah.
It is not a physical object that just sits there, and it is not a chemical solvent either.
Okay, so what is it?
It is a biological delivery system. According to the source material, the tablet dissolves and releases 3 specific components: oxygen, beneficial bacteria, and natural cleaning agents.
The oxygen release is the part that really caught my eye. We established that traditional septic tanks are anaerobic environments, meaning there is no oxygen, which is why the natural bacteria are so slow and smelly.
By releasing oxygen directly into the effluent layer, the treatment fundamentally alters the environment of the tank.
It changes the ecosystem.
Exactly. The introduction of oxygen allows for the cultivation of aerobic bacteria. Aerobic bacteria are a completely different class of microbes. Because they use oxygen, their metabolism is vastly faster.
Oh, I see.
They can consume and break down solid organic waste at a significantly higher rate than the default anaerobic bacteria.
So you are basically upgrading the workforce. You are replacing the slow, fragile workers who create foul-smelling gas with highly efficient, fast-acting workers that don't produce those sulfur odors.
The data supports that mechanical shift. The aerobic bacteria drastically reduce the volume of the organic solids in the sludge and scum layers.
And the cleaning agents.
Furthermore, the natural cleaning agents included in the tablet help break apart the fats and greases, like that solid bacon grease we talked about earlier.
Oh, right.
It breaks those down so the newly introduced aerobic bacteria can digest them more easily.
Using a monthly biological treatment like this is exactly like taking a targeted daily probiotic for your gut health, rather than just eating garbage for years and drinking rubbing alcohol when you get a stomachache. You are actively feeding the flora that keeps the system moving.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the probiotic analogy perfectly encapsulates why this specific approach is resonating with modern homeowners.
It's just easier.
It is. The source text points out that busy households simply reject the guesswork of the past. They do not want to become amateur chemists trying to balance the pH of their underground waste tank with various powders and liquids.
Nobody has time for that.
Exactly. They want a reliable, one-step natural routine. Flushing a biological tablet once a month requires almost zero cognitive load, but it provides continuous protection for an incredibly expensive piece of property.
It directly targets the specific nightmares everyone wants to avoid. The text lists the exact symptoms this biological optimization prevents. Persistent sewage odors are eliminated because the aerobic bacteria don't produce sulfur gas.
Right.
Slow drains are prevented because the solid waste isn't accumulating fast enough to back up the main pipe. And most importantly, the effluent remains clear, preventing that catastrophic drain field failure.
However, whenever we discuss the efficiency of biological treatments, we run the risk of overpromising.
That's true.
The source text addresses a critical logistical question that we really need to examine: the physical limits of the infrastructure.
Yes, I want to ensure we are being incredibly clear about what this actually means for the average homeowner. If I am cultivating this highly efficient aerobic microbiome, dropping a tablet in my toilet every month, and the bacteria are aggressively munching away at the waste, does that mean I can just cancel my pump truck service forever?
This raises an important question, and the boundary must be firmly established here. The definitive answer provided by the source is a hard no.
No, okay.
Preventative treatments do not completely replace the need for mechanical pumping. The standard recommendation of having the tank professionally pumped every 3 to 5 years remains an absolute necessity for long-term care.
Because at the end of the day, a tank is a concrete or plastic box with finite dimensions. You just cannot bypass the laws of physics.
Precisely. The biological engine is incredibly efficient at breaking down organic waste. It eliminates the odors, protects the drain field, and drastically reduces the volume of the sludge. But no bacteria on Earth can digest inorganic material.
The wipes.
Yes, the synthetic fibers from those flushable wipes, the dirt washed off your clothes in the laundry, small plastics, and highly stubborn organic compounds will inevitably settle at the bottom of the tank. Over the course of years, that indigestible sludge will slowly build up.
So the framework the source is presenting is not some magic cure-all that makes the septic tank disappear. Treatment-based products are an essential additional layer of support.
It is a hybrid approach to home infrastructure. You rely on mechanical pumping every few years to physically reset the capacity of the tank and remove the indigestible dirt and synthetics.
Right.
But you utilize biological treatments monthly to maintain the microscopic engine that actively processes the waste, stops the odors, and protects the drain field in the years between those pumps.
So, what does this all mean? If we step back and look at the trajectory outlined in the source material, we are observing a profound evolution in how we interact with the spaces we live in.
A very necessary evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. We are leaving behind the ignorant era of pump it and forget it, where we essentially treated a delicate ecosystem like an indestructible trash can. We are moving away from the reactive, destructive strategy of pouring harsh chemicals down our drains. We're finally realizing that poisoning our infrastructure is a fast track to a $20,000 excavation bill.
The transition represents a broader understanding of biology in our daily lives. We are recognizing that effective maintenance requires working with natural processes rather than trying to chemically obliterate them.
Right, work with nature, not against it.
Exactly. By cultivating a healthy aerobic microbiome, we let nature do the heavy lifting safely and efficiently.
And for you listening, whether you are trying to protect the investment of a newly purchased property, or you simply want to avoid the sheer embarrassment of a flooded, foul-smelling lawn during your next summer gathering, the practical takeaway is undeniable.
It really is.
Understanding the mechanics of this hidden ecosystem is incredibly empowering. Prioritizing natural bacterial health, avoiding the daily traps of hot grease and flushable wipes, and utilizing modern biological support is quite literally the blueprint for saving tens of thousands of dollars.
It fundamentally changes the relationship you have with your own home. And looking through the implications of this article, it leaves me with a lingering thought.
Oh, what's that?
The history of septic care reveals just how completely oblivious we can be to the complex living ecosystems operating right beneath our feet, doing the dirty work for us every single day.
That is so true.
If we have spent decades starving, neglecting, and actively poisoning our underground infrastructure simply because it was out of sight, what other vital unseen systems in our communities, our local environments, or even our own bodies are we currently neglecting just because they haven't backed up yet?